Captain Elias Ward had always believed that space was a place for explorers, not politicians. The vast emptiness, the stars shining like scattered jewels, and the silence between planets gave him a sense of calm that no council meeting on Earth could ever match. Yet here he was, standing on the deck of the human delegation ship Horizon, approaching the largest space station humanity had ever seen, the Zitherian Citadel. Its massive structure glittered with 1,000 colors, reflecting the light of nearby stars. The station wasn't just a hub of commerce and diplomacy. It was a testament to the ingenuity of an alien race humans were just beginning to understand. Elias adjusted the strap of his shoulder harness and scanned the observation window. Incredible, he muttered to himself. Every panel, every beam of light seemed deliberate, as though the station itself was alive. He had studied Zitherian technology for years, but seeing it in person was humbling. Captain Ward, we are approaching the docking bay, a voice announced over the ship's intercom. It was Lieutenant Mara Chen, Elias's second-in-command and closest confidant. Her tone carried the professional calm that had earned her respect among the crew. Understood. Elias replied, though his mind was elsewhere. This mission was different. First contact with an advanced civilization wasn't just about diplomacy. It was about survival. Humanity had sent emissaries before, but none had encountered a species as powerful, as intelligent, or as unpredictable as the Zitherians. The docking sequence began with a soft hum that vibrated through the floor beneath their feet. The ship aligned perfectly with the docking port, guided by Zitherian AI that moved with precision no human pilot could match. As the airlock opened, Elias felt a shiver of anticipation. This was the moment history would remember, or perhaps forget, depending on what happened next. The delegation walked cautiously down the ramp and into the grand hall of the Zitherian Citadel. It was larger than any human cathedral, with ceilings that seemed to stretch into infinity and walls that shimmered with iridescent light. Strange, elegant symbols floated in the air, pulsating gently like living patterns. Humans had theorized that Zitherians communicated visually as much as verbally, and these floating symbols were likely part of their language. At the center of the hall stood the Zitherian queen, Selthara. She was taller than any human, her movements graceful yet commanding. Her eyes, deep and luminous, scanned the human delegation as though weighing each person's worth. Elias felt a strange pull of both fear and admiration. The stories of the Zitherians had painted them as nearly perfect beings, stronger, faster, smarter, but in Selthara's gaze, he saw something more: curiosity, intelligence, and perhaps even a spark of recognition. The room fell silent as she spoke. Her voice was melodic, yet carried a power that made every word resonate deep in the chest. "Welcome, humans," she said, her words translated instantly by a soft hum of technology. "We have observed your kind for centuries. Today, we see you with our own eyes." Elias stepped forward, bowing slightly. "Your Majesty, it is an honor to represent humanity. We come in peace and with the hope of mutual understanding." Selthara tilted her head, her gaze lingering on him longer than he expected. Then, suddenly, she raised a slender hand and pointed directly at Elias. Her voice rang out, clear and firm. "I want him." Gasps filled the hall. Humans froze, unsure whether the declaration was a threat or an honor. Members of the Zitherian Council murmured among themselves, exchanging curious glances. The atmosphere shifted from formal ceremony to tense anticipation in an instant. Elias's mind raced. I don't understand," he said, keeping his voice steady. "Your Majesty?" The Queen's eyes did not waver. "He will join me. There is no debate." Before anyone could react, the Zitherian attendants stepped forward, their movements fluid and precise. They gestured for Elias to follow. He glanced at Mara, who gave him a reassuring nod. He had faced combat in more dangerous situations, but nothing in his experience prepared him for being personally chosen by an alien queen. In the middle of her capital, as Elias walked toward the attendants, he noticed the detailed carvings on the walls. Scenes of Zitherian history, their victories, and their technologies flashed past him. It was clear that they had mastered not just science, but art, culture, and philosophy in ways humans were only beginning to imagine. Yet, Despite the grandeur, Elias kept his mind focused. Why him? What did the Queen see in a human warrior that made her select him above all others? The attendants led him through winding corridors, each more magnificent than the last. Glowing panels displayed star maps of distant galaxies, some of which humans had never even charted. It was a reminder that the universe was vast, and humanity's place in it was still small but not necessarily insignificant. Finally, they arrived at a chamber that seemed reserved for someone of great importance. The room was circular, with walls that curved upward into a dome filled with shifting lights. In the center, Selthar awaited. Elias noticed a subtle hum in the air, a resonance that seemed almost alive, as if the room itself was attuned to the Queen's presence. "You may sit," Selthar said, gesturing to a sleek, luminous chair that seemed to hover slightly above the ground. Elias hesitated, then accepted. The Queen's eyes studied him intently. "Do you know why I have chosen you, human?" she asked. Elias shook his head. "I cannot say I do, Your Majesty. I am a warrior, yes, but I have no understanding of why I am singled out." Selthar smiled faintly, a gesture both enigmatic and warm. "It is not your strength, nor your intelligence, that drew my attention, though both are noted. It is your adaptability. Your species surprises. You think differently. You see paths where others see only obstacles. That is rare among the stars." Elias blinked, trying to process her words. He had fought battles, solved crises, and led men and women in countless situations, but never had he been chosen for the qualities she described. "I see," he said slowly. "And what is it you wish from me?" "The galaxy faces a threat," Selthar said, her tone suddenly grave. "A force beyond comprehension approaches, consuming planets and civilizations alike. My world alone cannot withstand it. I need someone who can think as you do, a human. Will you help us?" Elias felt a weight settle on his shoulders. This was no ordinary mission. This was not about diplomacy or trade. This was about survival on a scale humanity had never confronted. Yet he could not allow fear to paralyze him. He straightened in his chair, meeting her gaze without flinching. "If my presence can help your people, Your Majesty, I will do everything in my power," he said. Selthar inclined her head, satisfied. "Then our journey begins. But first, you must learn our ways, understand our technology, and pass the trials that test not only skill but wisdom. You will be challenged in ways humans rarely imagine." Elias nodded. "I am ready." The attendants escorted him back to a nearby chamber where he could rest before the trials began. As he walked, he allowed himself a brief glance at the vast city beyond the chamber windows. Ships moved in complex patterns, alien creatures floated or glided in open spaces, and the stars stretched endlessly beyond. It was beautiful and terrifying all at once. Mara appeared at the doorway, concern etched on her face. "Elias, are you sure about this? You've only just met her, and already she wants you for something dangerous." Elias smiled faintly, placing a hand on her shoulder. "I don't know what she sees, Mara, but if humans are going to be a part of the galactic future, I can't turn away from this. Sometimes the universe doesn't wait for permission." The human warrior sat by the window, looking out at the stars, and for the first time in his life, he realized that the fate of not just one world, but perhaps many, rested on his decisions. He had been chosen, and now there was no turning back. The Queen's words echoed in his mind. "I want him." What that meant, he did not yet know, but he would face it, as humans always did, with courage, creativity, and resolve. And so, Captain Elias Ward began his journey into the unknown, not just as a soldier, but as a symbol of humanity's potential, in a galaxy that was larger, stranger, and far more dangerous than he had ever imagined. The chamber door hissed closed behind Captain Elias Ward, leaving him alone with his thoughts. The light from the massive windows stretched across the floor, casting intricate patterns that seemed to move with the hum of the station. Every detail of the Zithirian citadel reminded him that this was a world far beyond human comprehension. But what was most extraordinary wasn't the technology, the architecture, or even the floating symbols that filled the air. It was Selthar herself, the Queen who had chosen him, Elias had survived countless battles, faced enemies that humans had never imagined, and led troops through impossible situations. Yet now, facing a challenge he barely understood, he felt a mix of fear and determination. Mara's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes, the universe doesn't wait for permission. The door opened quietly, and a young Zithirian entered. She was slight, her movements graceful, and her eyes shimmered with curiosity. "I am Lyra," she said, her voice soft but steady. "I have been assigned to guide you during the trials. You will need help understanding our methods. Will you accept it?" Elias inclined his head. "Yes, any help will be welcome." Lyra smiled faintly. "Good, follow me." We begin immediately. They walked through corridors lined with walls that seemed alive, glowing softly, pulsating with energy that Elias could feel even through the floor. Lyra explained the first trial, the labyrinth of perception. "You will enter a chamber," she said, "where reality is not always what it seems. Paths may shift, walls may appear or vanish. Success depends on more than speed, it depends on observation, intuition, and the ability to adapt." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Sounds complicated." "Complicated is one word. Dangerous is another." "Do not fail," Lyra said lightly, though there was seriousness in her tone. When they reached the chamber, Elias was surprised to see it was empty. A vast hall stretching farther than the eye could perceive. A soft blue light illuminated the floor, and the walls shimmered faintly as though waiting. Lyra gestured for him to step inside. The moment he did, the floor shifted beneath his feet, and the walls stretched, creating corridors that seemed endless. Shapes appeared, mirages of creatures that did not exist, obstacles that vanished when approached, and doors that led nowhere. It was disorienting, but Elias forced himself to breathe steadily. He had trained in uncertainty all his life, and now his instincts took over. He began to notice subtle clues. The floor's color shifted slightly when he approached the correct path. The shimmer of walls indicated false routes, and patterns in the air guided him without words. His mind, trained in observation and improvisation, worked faster than he realized. He adapted to each change with creativity rather than brute force. Hours passed, or perhaps minutes. Time seemed meaningless. Elias moved with focus, trusting his senses, his intuition, and the small lessons Lyra had taught him about Zithirian logic. When he finally reached the chamber's exit, the walls parted smoothly, and a soft voice echoed, "You have passed the first trial, human. You understand adaptability?" Elias exhaled and felt a rare moment of pride. "Not bad for a human," Lyra said with a smile, though he thought she sounded genuinely impressed. The second trial came quickly, the puzzle of decisions. In a room filled with hovering panels, each displaying a star system in danger, Elias was given a choice: rescue one planet or another, knowing that resources were limited. The Zithirians had designed this trial not to see who could follow instructions, but who could weigh morality, risk, and consequence simultaneously. Elias considered each option. He could focus on saving the planet closest to Selthara as homeworld, but that might leave millions elsewhere in danger. He could try a calculated balance, but one mistake could be catastrophic. His mind raced, evaluating probabilities, human empathy, and the value of each choice. Finally, he made a decision, choosing a strategy that minimized overall harm and allowed a chance for future recovery. For both worlds, the panels shifted, showing simulated results of his choice. To his relief, the outcome was considered excellent by Zithirian standards. Lyra nodded. "Your logic is unorthodox, but effective. You see possibilities others cannot. This is why you were chosen." The third trial was the test of endurance. Unlike the previous challenges, this was physical. The chamber simulated extreme environments: intense heat, freezing cold, low gravity, and high pressure. Elias moved through each simulation with precision, using both strength and reasoning. He adjusted his movements to conserve energy, using his environment rather than fighting against it. At one point, a corner tilted sharply, and a simulated wall fell in his path. Humans might have panicked, but Elias jumped, rolled, and used a small lever to redirect a shifting panel. The simulation ended, and Lyra clapped softly, Most humans would have failed here, she said. Your body adapts as quickly as your mind. This combination is rare. Elias allowed himself a short smile. I've had to improvise plenty of times. Never thought it would come to training for aliens. Lyra laughed lightly, though her eyes remained serious. You will need both mind and body in the days to come. These trials are only the beginning. Finally, the fourth trial, the challenge of strategy. Elias was placed in a holographic war simulation. Hundreds of units moved across multiple planets, each with resources, population, and technology. The goal? Achieve a balance of defense and offense while minimizing casualties. Elias immediately noticed patterns in the simulation that Zitherians themselves seemed to overlook. He introduced tactics they had never considered: decoys, unexpected maneuvers, and human intuition in predicting enemy behavior. Units that were previously trapped found new paths. Simulated fleets that seemed doomed to destruction found ways to survive. Lyra observed silently, then finally spoke. You do not fight like we do. You think beyond patterns. That is what makes you remarkable. Humans see solutions in chaos. The last trial was unexpected, the trial of ethics. Elias was presented with a scenario involving two civilizations in conflict. One technologically advanced, the other primitive. The Zitherians wanted to see if he could make a decision that balanced morality, diplomacy, and long-term consequences. Elias considered every option carefully. He reasoned that strength alone was not enough. The choice had to protect lives, foster trust, and ensure stability. He proposed a solution that allowed the advanced civilization to share technology responsibly, avoiding domination while protecting the weaker society. The room fell silent. The floating symbols of Zitherian judgment hovered in the air, glowing softly. Finally, Selthara appeared, her presence commanding the space around her. You have passed all trials, human, she said, her voice melodic but firm. You demonstrate not only strength, intellect, and courage, but the very qualities I seek: adaptability, creativity, and moral clarity. You are extraordinary. Elias felt a mix of relief and pride, though he kept his posture calm. Thank you, Your Majesty. I did what I could. Selthara's eyes softened slightly. No, you did what none of us could have done alone. That is why I chose you. That is why I will need you. Lyra smiled at him. You have made history today, Captain Ward. Not just for humans, but for all of us. Few have ever completed these trials successfully. Elias allowed himself a rare moment to relax. The challenges had been grueling, but he had passed. More importantly, he had learned something crucial about these aliens. They respected creativity, moral judgment, and the ability to adapt. In other words, they respected humanity at least when it was at its best. That evening, Elias stood at the window of his quarters, looking out at the stars. The citadel glowed beneath him, a city of lights, life, and possibilities. He could see ships moving in precise patterns, alien beings gliding along open platforms, and distant planets spinning silently in space. Mara joined him, her expression unreadable. You did well, she said quietly. But don't forget, this is only the beginning. The Queen's request. It is not without purpose. Something is coming. Elias nodded. I know. And if she believes I can help, then I will. We humans survive by thinking, adapting, and pushing limits. That's what I intend to do. As he looked at the stars, he felt a spark of something he had rarely felt in his life: hope. Not just for himself or for the humans who had sent him, but for the possibility that humanity could truly matter among the stars. He had passed the trials. He had earned the Queen's trust. And now, the real journey was about to begin. The morning light of the Zitherian citadel glimmered across the chamber where Captain Elias Ward and his new team gathered. The trials were behind him, but now a far greater challenge awaited. Outside the enormous window, the stars stretched endlessly, distant worlds twinkling like silent witnesses to the mission that lay ahead. Elias stood at the center of the briefing room, flanked by Lyra, the young Zitherian scholar who had guided him through the trials, and a team of the station's finest warriors. Humans were few, but each had been chosen for their courage, skill, and adaptability. The rest were Zitherians, elite in combat, strategy, and technology. It was the first true collaboration between humans and the Zitherians, and Elias felt the weight of responsibility pressing against him like gravity itself. Selthara appeared, her presence commanding the room. Her eyes, deep and luminous, swept across the assembly. "The threat we face is known as the Null," she began. "It is a swarm of artificial intelligence that consumes star systems. Entire planets vanish, their civilizations erased. Its approach to my homeworld is inevitable unless stopped. Captain Ward, you will lead this mission." Elias's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "Understood, Your Majesty. I will do everything in my power." The Queen gestured to a holographic star map that expanded across the room. A glowing network of red lines marked the path of the Null across the galaxy, each line representing devastation in its wake. Elias studied it carefully. Humans had faced impossible odds before, but this was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The swarm adapted quickly, communicated instantly across vast distances, and attacked with precision. Lyra stepped closer. "Our intelligence suggests that the core of the Null is controlled from a central hub, orbiting a dying star. If we destroy the core, the swarm will collapse. But the hub is protected by defenses no single species could overcome alone." Elias considered their options. The Zitherians had advanced weapons, faster ships, and shields stronger than anything humans had created. Yet their approach was rigid, relying on calculations and protocol. Humans, by contrast, thrived in chaos and improvisation. He realized immediately that the key to victory would be to combine the strengths of both species. The team moved to the hangar, where sleek spacecraft waited. Elias's ship was a hybrid vessel designed for joint missions. It carried Zitherian shields, human weapons systems, and a crew trained to adapt to sudden changes. As he boarded, he felt a familiar thrill. Space combat had always demanded ingenuity, courage, and split-second decisions. But this mission required something more: trust. Trust in the crew, in their combined abilities, and in the unpredictable human spark that the Zitherians had so rarely seen. The launch was flawless. The hybrid ship lifted smoothly from the Citadel, slipping into the void with silent grace. Outside, the stars streaked past as they accelerated toward the coordinates of the Null's hub. "Captain," said Lieutenant Mara Chen, her voice calm over the comms. "Sensors indicate the swarm is moving faster than predicted." "They may have detected our approach," Elias nodded. "Keep your focus. We adapt. That's what humans do best." As they approached the dying star, the first of the swarm's defenses became visible. Swirling drones, metallic and ominous, moved in formation, guarding the hub. Elias's team had trained for scenarios like this, but no simulation could replicate the speed and intelligence of the Null. Lyra leaned over the console. "Their patterns are complex, but predictable if you watch closely. Captain, I suggest a diversion on one flank while the rest approach from the opposite direction." Elias studied the formations. The Zitherians had already proposed a straight assault, calculated, precise, and safe by their standards, but he saw a better way. "We'll split our forces," he said. "Half engage their attention directly. The other half, including us, will approach from the starward side. It's risky, but it may give us an opening." Lyra looked at him, eyes wide. No Zitherian has suggested such a tactic before. "It is daring." Elias smiled faintly. "Sometimes daring is the only option." The plan unfolded with tense precision. Half the fleet engaged the drones head-on, drawing them away from the hub. The remaining ships, including Elias's hybrid vessel, slipped through the gaps he had predicted, weaving past the swarm's sensors and automated defenses. The Null reacted, adjusting its formations, but Elias anticipated each move. Inside the core hub, the environment was alien and disorienting. Gravity shifted unpredictably, corridors twisted, and lights flickered in patterns designed to confuse intruders. Yet Elias moved with calm focus, guiding his team through each obstacle. Human intuition, paired with Zitherian technology, allowed them to bypass systems that would have been fatal to any single species. At one point, a massive automated turret swung into their path. Zitherian soldiers froze, unsure of how to proceed. Elias assessed quickly, using the ship's flexible weapons system. He fired a calculated shot that ricocheted off the hull and disabled the turret. Humans and Zitharians alike stared in awe. Lyra whispered, "I see now why the Queen chose you. You see solutions we cannot imagine." They reached the core chamber. The Null's intelligence was apparent even here. The central hub pulsed with energy, scanning their every move, adapting to their tactics in real time. Elias realized this was no ordinary AI. It calculated probabilities, predicted behavior, and adjusted defenses faster than any human or Zitharian could react. He took a deep breath. "This is what humans are good at," he said to his team. "Predictable patterns are easy to follow. Unpredictable, that's where we shine. Follow my lead, using human intuition, quick improvisation, and the Zitharian's technology." Elias devised a sequence of attacks that the Null could not anticipate. Drones were lured into traps, automated defenses were overloaded, and communication nodes were scrambled. The core itself pulsed with warning signals, but Elias remained calm. "Now," he said, "all ships synchronize. Overload the core in 3, 2, 1. Energy surged as the combined fleet unleashed a calculated assault. The Null's core flickered violently, systems colliding with one another in an impossible dance. Then, in a blinding flash, the hub went dark. The Null swarm immediately lost cohesion, drones falling into disarray. Systems that had seemed indestructible collapsed under the human Zitharian assault. The victory was silent at first. Elias looked at the fleet, their faces a mixture of relief and astonishment. Lyra's eyes shimmered with pride. "You did it," she whispered. "We couldn't have done it without you." Elias allowed himself a moment to breathe. "We did it together," he corrected. "Humans adapt, Zitharians innovate together. We can overcome almost anything." Back on the Citadel, Selthar awaited news. The moment Elias reported the mission's success, the Queen's expression softened for the first time in weeks. "You have exceeded my expectations, Captain Ward," she said. "Human creativity and courage have saved my world, perhaps. Saved many worlds." Elias nodded, but he remained focused. This was only one threat. The galaxy is full of challenges. We humans are ready to face them, not just with weapons, but with thought, courage, and ingenuity. Selthar as council, observing the events from holographic displays, murmured among themselves. Many had doubted humans. Many had assumed the species was primitive, unrefined, and predictable. But now, they reconsidered. One human warrior, with courage and insight, had led their combined forces to a victory that no Zitharian alone could have achieved. That evening, Elias stood once more by the window of his quarters. The Citadel glittered beneath him, alive with light and activity. Lyra joined him, silent for a moment as they both gazed at the stars. "You changed their perception," she said softly. "Not just of you, but of humans. You prove we can work together." Elias smiled faintly. "We didn't just work together. We solved a problem no single species could face. That's the human way we see opportunity in chaos, and we act." Lyra nodded, impressed. "I see why the Queen chose you. Humanity has potential far beyond what we imagined. You are remarkable." Elias looked outward at the galaxy, knowing the mission had only begun. The Null was gone for now, but other dangers, other civilizations, and other mysteries awaited. And if the universe had learned one thing today, it was this: humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of greatness. As he watched the stars, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever. Not just as a warrior, but as a representative of humanity's best qualities: courage, creativity, and determination. He had earned the Queen's trust, proven the value of human ingenuity, and formed bonds that could shape the galaxy's future. And somewhere deep in his heart, Elias knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity had entered the wider universe not as observers, but as a force capable of meeting the impossible, one bold choice at a time. The stars streaked past the viewport as Captain Elias Ward and his team approached the heart of the Null's domain. The mission so far had tested their courage, skill, and ingenuity, but now they faced the most dangerous part: the central intelligence of the Null itself. Unlike the outer swarm, this hub was alive with energy. Calculating, observing, and predicting everything before it happened, Elias leaned over the console, scanning holographic displays that shifted with the speed of thought. "This is no ordinary AI," he said quietly. "It thinks faster than we can. It adapts instantly. One wrong move, and we're finished." Lyra, standing beside him, nodded. "Its predictions are nearly flawless. Zitharians have studied it for decades. Most fail before they even reach the core. But the humans, you might see what it cannot." Elias smiled faintly. "That's why I'm here." The null's core appeared on the sensors like a spinning, pulsating sphere of energy, surrounded by a maze of defense systems, drones, and energy fields. The hub radiated power, each pulse seemingly aware of their presence. As the team's ships approached, a wave of automated drones surged forward. A living wall of metal and light. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers," Elias ordered. "Remember, we adapt faster than they predict. Move." The fleet split into formations. Zitharian ships followed precise trajectories, while humans suggested improvisational maneuvers, sudden finds, unpredictable shifts, and unexpected angles of attack. The null recalculated instantly, yet it struggled to anticipate human unpredictability. Drones collided, shields overloaded, and the hub itself shimmered as if surprised. Elias guided his hybrid vessel with calm precision, weaving through swarming drones while coordinating the other ships. He noticed a pattern. The null predicted sequences, but not creativity. Humans thrived on improvisation, using ideas the AI could not fully compute. "Focus on the weak points I've identified," Lyra called. "Concentrate fire on the nodes controlling the defense grids." Elias nodded, targeting the nodes with precision. Explosions rippled through the swarm, drones falling apart in chaotic bursts of metal. The null adapted, sending energy pulses toward the attacking ships. But Elias anticipated the shifts and adjusted course instantly. As they neared the core chamber, the null's energy pulses became intense, warping the very space around them. Gravity fluctuated, corridors twisted, and lights shifted in dizzying patterns. Zitharians froze for a moment, but Elias shouted over the comms, "Trust your instincts. Observe, react, and move as one. Improvisation is our advantage." The crew followed, humans and Zitharians alike, moving as a single unit. Elias led them through a labyrinth of twisting corridors, using intuition to find paths where the AI's predictions were weakest. Each decision he made was lightning fast, combining human creativity with the precision of Zitharian technology. Finally, they reached the core chamber. The null's intelligence pulsed visibly, a sphere of energy radiating thought and calculation. Every movement they made was countered by immediate adaptation. Automated defenses fired with impossible accuracy, barriers rose in anticipation, and holographic projections simulated infinite strategies to block them. Elias paused, studying the hub. "It predicts everything but not chaos. That's where we strike." He instructed the team to create diversions, splitting the null's focus. Human and Zitharian ships darted in unpredictable patterns, firing bursts of energy at precise intervals. The null recalculated constantly, yet it could not fully anticipate the improvisation. Energy shields faltered, systems overloaded, and defenses flickered. Elias approached the core itself in a small, maneuverable craft. Lyra's voice came through the comms, calm but urgent. "Captain, the core will detect anything approaching directly. You must disrupt its calculations without entering its full range." Elias studied the controls, thinking quickly. "We'll use decoy signals to simulate multiple intruders. I'll use my ship as bait, drawing its attention, while the others strike from angles it cannot predict." The plan was risky. One miscalculation, and the core could destroy them instantly. Yet Elias trusted his instincts. Human intuition had brought them this far. It would carry them the rest of the way. The moment arrived. His ship darted forward, emitting multiple holographic decoys. The null's defenses focused on them, scanning, predicting, firing, but Elias guided the real ship in a path the AI could not compute. The other vessels struck the nodes and weak points he had identified, hitting with perfect timing. Energy cascaded through the hub, systems colliding, lights flickering in chaotic bursts. The null's calculations spiraled, trying to respond to unpredictable actions it could not compute. Elias maneuvered closer, each move calculated but unpredictable, until the core's defenses faltered. "Now!" he shouted. The fleet unleashed a combined strike of energy and precision fire. The core shimmered violently, then exploded in a controlled release of energy that disabled the null completely. The sphere of intelligence flickered, then went dark. Silence filled the chamber. Elias exhaled, his heart racing. The null had been neutralized, not destroyed, but incapacitated. The swarm lost cohesion instantly, drones falling into inactivity, systems shutting down. Humanity and Zitharians had triumphed through a combination of courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. Lyra's voice came through, filled with awe. "You did it, Captain Ward. Humanity has done what no Zitharian alone could achieve." Elias allowed himself a small smile. "We did it together. Humans adapt, Zitharians innovate. Together, we succeed." Back on the Citadel, Selthara waited. When Elias reported the outcome, her expression softened, showing a rare warmth. "You have proven what I hoped humans could be," she said. "Not just warriors, but thinkers, strategists, and problem solvers. Today, you have shown that the universe may be larger than any one species, but humans can matter." Elias stood straight, meeting her gaze. "We will always strive to do our best, Your Majesty, not for glory, but for survival and understanding. Humans are ready to face challenges not just with strength, but with thought and courage." The Council of Zitharians, previously skeptical, observed in silence. Many had doubted humanity's abilities. Many had assumed that humans were unpredictable in the worst way, lacking discipline, technology, or understanding. But now, after witnessing Elias's actions, they reconsidered. One human had led them to victory against an intelligence far greater than any single species could overcome. That evening, Elias stood at the window of his quarters once more. The stars stretched endlessly, glittering as if celebrating their triumph. Lyra joined him, her eyes reflecting the lights of the Citadel below. "You changed their minds," she said softly. "Not just about you, but about humans. You prove we can work together and succeed where one species alone would fail." Elias nodded. Gazing outward, humans see patterns differently. We improvise, we adapt, and when necessary, we act in ways no one predicts. That's why we survive, and why we can make a difference in the universe. Lyra smiled faintly. "I see now why the Queen chose you. Your courage, your adaptability, your thinking. It is remarkable." Elias looked at the stars, feeling a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The null had been stopped, but he knew the galaxy was full of mysteries, challenges, and dangers. Humanity had earned a place among the stars not as observers, but as active participants capable of facing the impossible. And deep in his heart, Elias understood one undeniable truth: humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of greatness. They could survive, solve problems, and rise to challenges that no one else could. And as long as they embraced these qualities, there was no limit to what they could achieve. The journey was far from over, but Captain Elias Ward, human warrior and symbol of his species, was ready for whatever came next. The celebrations on the Zitharian Citadel were unlike anything Captain Elias Ward had ever witnessed. Ships glided gracefully through the open skyways, lights shimmering across the city like falling stars. Crowds of Zitharians gathered in the grand plazas, their voices a symphony of awe and admiration. And at the center of it all, standing on a raised platform before the largest assembly hall, was Queen Selthara herself. Elias adjusted his uniform, feeling the weight of both pride and responsibility. His journey had begun with a sudden, unexpected declaration: "I want him." And now it was coming to a culmination he could hardly have imagined. Humans and Zitharians alike looked to him, expecting words that could inspire unity, courage, and hope. "You have done well, human," Selthara said, her voice carrying across the hall. "You have faced challenges that no other species could endure. You have shown strength, wisdom, and ingenuity, and in doing so, you have proven that humanity belongs among the stars." Elias stepped forward, his eyes scanning the assembly. He saw admiration in many faces, curiosity in others, and hope in all. Your Majesty, he said, I did not act alone. Humans are strong, yes, but our greatest strength is our ability to work together with each other, with other species, and with the challenges we face. Today, we humans learn from the Zitherians, and the Zitherians learn from us. That is how we succeed. Together, a murmur of approval ran through the crowd. Many Zitherians had doubted humans before, thinking them primitive or limited. But now, through actions, decisions, and courage, Elias had shown that humans could think, adapt, and achieve the impossible. Lyra stepped forward beside him, her expression one of pride and admiration. Captain Ward has proven not only his own worth but the worth of his people. Humans are clever, adaptable, and courageous. They bring a perspective that we have long underestimated. Selthar inclined her head. It is my honor to formally recognize Captain Elias Ward as champion of the Zitherian realm. But more than that, today marks the beginning of a new Aryan alliance between our species. The applause that followed echoed through the Citadel. For the first time, humans were not simply visitors in the Zitherian world, they were equals. Partners in a galaxy filled with both beauty and danger. Elias felt a rare sense of fulfillment. He had been chosen, tested, and challenged, and he had risen to meet each trial. But more importantly, he had shown the Zitherians what humans could truly accomplish. After the ceremony, the team gathered privately to debrief. Zitherian leaders expressed their gratitude, discussing ways humanity could contribute to future missions and research. Elias listened, nodding, already thinking about what came next. Humans were capable of extraordinary things, but only if they were allowed to participate, to innovate, and to lead where necessary. Mara Chen approached him quietly. Elias, she said, you've changed everything. Humanity is now seen as a force that can face cosmic threats. That's incredible. Elias smiled faintly. It's not about one person, Mara. It's about all humans, our creativity, our courage, our ability to act when others hesitate. That is what the galaxy needed to see. And now, it has. Lyra joined them, holding a small device that projected a holographic star map. Captain, she said, we've received reports from other sectors. The null is gone, but other anomalies have appeared, disturbances that threaten civilizations across the galaxy. We may need humans again. Elias studied the map. Then we will be ready. Humans don't wait for permission. We act and we adapt. That's how we survive, and that's how we help others survive. Days passed in a flurry of activity. Humans trained with Zitherian forces, shared strategies, and collaborated on technology integration. The lessons of the null mission were documented and shared, ensuring that both species would be better prepared for future challenges. Elias took part in every session, observing, advising, and guiding with the insight that had won the Queen's trust in the first place. One evening, as the stars glimmered beyond the vast windows of the Citadel, Elias walked alongside Selthar. The Queen's expression was contemplative. You have shown that humans are not only warriors, but thinkers, innovators, and leaders. I underestimated your species. I see now that your potential is limitless. Elias inclined his head. Your Majesty, we humans have always adapted to survive. But survival alone is not enough. We strive to improve, to understand, and to contribute. That is our nature. And perhaps that is why you chose me. Selthar's gaze softened. It is not only why I chose you, but why I now wish for humanity to be a permanent partner in the Galactic Council. Your species has value far beyond what we anticipated. Elias smiled, a rare warmth filling him. We will honor that trust. We will act with courage, wisdom, and integrity. Lara appeared nearby, watching the exchange with quiet admiration. The galaxy will never be the same, she said softly. Humans have arrived over the following weeks. Human delegations worked alongside Zitherians to stabilize star systems, previously threatened by the null. Scientists, engineers, and strategists shared knowledge, blending human intuition with Zitherian precision. The result was extraordinary. Systems once at risk were now thriving. Civilizations strengthened, and the bonds between species deepened. Elias took a moment to reflect on how far he and humanity had come. Just days ago, he had been a visitor, a subject of curiosity, chosen for reasons he did not fully understand. Now, humans were recognized as equals, valued for their creativity, adaptability, and courage. It was a triumph not only for him, but for every human who had dreamed of reaching the stars. During a quiet moment in the Citadel Gardens, Elias spoke with Mara and Lyra. "We've accomplished something incredible," he said. "But the universe is still vast, and challenges will come. Humanity must remain vigilant, adaptable, and ready to act." Mara nodded. "And we will. We've seen what humans can do. You've inspired everyone here, Elias. Not just humans, but Cytherians too." Lyra smiled. "The Queen's choice was wise. But it was your courage, your thinking, and your heart that made the difference. Humans can truly shape the future." Elias gazed at the stars, the endless expanse beyond the Citadel's walls. "Then let us do so," he said. "Not for glory, not for conquest, but for understanding, cooperation, and the protection of life. That is the human way. That is how we will make a difference." News of their success spread across the galaxy. Humanity became recognized not as a fledgling species struggling for survival, but as a species capable of facing unimaginable threats with ingenuity, courage, and moral judgment. Colonies welcomed human advisors and warriors, knowing that their perspective and adaptability could turn the tide in crises. Selthar convened a final ceremony to solidify the new alliance. "Today, we honor not only Captain Ward, but all humans," she said. "You have shown that a single species, united with courage and creativity, can overcome the impossible. Let this alliance be a symbol of what can be achieved when species work together." Respecting one another's strengths, Elias stepped forward, feeling the eyes of both humans and Cytherians upon him. "We accept this honor with humility and resolve," he said. "Humanity will strive to live up to the trust you have placed in us. We will act not as conquerors, but as partners. Together, we will face the challenges of the galaxy, and together, we will succeed." Applause and cheers filled the hall. Humans and Cytherians alike stood in solidarity, united by mutual respect and shared purpose. For the first time, the galaxy witnessed the true potential of humanity: courage, adaptability, creativity, and a heart that sought not dominance, but cooperation and understanding. As the celebration continued into the night, Elias found a quiet spot overlooking the stars. The Citadel glimmered below, and beyond, countless worlds awaited. He thought of Earth, of humanity, and of the possibilities that stretched before them. The Null had been defeated, but the universe was vast, filled with mysteries, challenges, and opportunities. And now, humanity had proven itself capable of rising to meet them. Lyra joined him once more, her voice soft. "The galaxy will remember this day. Humans have arrived, and they are here to stay." Elias nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Yes, and we will continue to prove that our species can face any challenge, not by following a path laid out for us, but by creating our own. That is the essence of humanity. That is what makes us remarkable." The stars shone brightly, reflecting the promise of the future. Humanity had begun its journey among the stars, not as observers, but as innovators, problem solvers, and protectors. And Captain Elias Ward, the human warrior who had been chosen by the alien queen, knew that this was only the beginning of a legacy that would inspire countless generations to come. The universe was vast, full of unknown dangers and wonders. But with courage, creativity, and unity, humanity would face it all and thrive. And somewhere, in the heart of the Citadel, the alien queen watched with quiet satisfaction, knowing she had chosen wisely.